Michelle speaking. Thanks ever so much. Thank you. Goodbye.
Which brings us to today's Telegraph. You all seen it? Well, here we are in the responsible tourism rankings. Carbon reduction, third from bottom. Carbon offsetting, bottom. Conservation schemes, no information provided by the operator. Responsible tourism, second from bottom. And finally, on the ground, which is obviously our strongest suit because we are fourth from the bottom. Now, we sat around this very table a year ago and set ourselves the goal of being recognised as the industry leader in environmentally responsible tourism. Now, what I want to know is, how on earth did we get into this situation?
Yours is the only department making any progress on the environment, David. We're not getting anywhere.
Did you just not get around to it?
Well, we got round to it, all right. We set some quite detailed objectives, but nothing actually happened.
You mean people agreed to do things and then just didn't do them?
Yeah. Take Claire, for instance. Any more on that?
No, I think that's about it. Okay, that brings us to the environment.
Any ideas for improvements?
Oh, we do waste a lot of brochures. Maybe we could do something about that.
Well, what sort of wastage are we talking about?
Well, thousands, really. We throw them away at the end of the year when they don't get used.
Well, is that an ordering issue or what?
Well, it's marketing's fault, really. They only print them once a season, so we have to make sure we order enough so that we don't run out.
I see. Well, can we work that into an objective for you this year? To work with them to reduce the waste?
Don't see why not.
How much can you save?
Well, we shouldn't throw away any, really.
But can you give me a figure? Sort of, how much do you think you can cut the waste by?
Well, we should be able to reduce it by 80%, I would have thought.
OK. What timescale?
Well, we won't know till the end of the year, because we don't throw the brochures away until the new ones come in, so...
Fair point. OK, suppose we say that your objective is to reduce wastage of brochures by 80% over the next 12 months. Happy with that?
Yeah.
And there you are. A classic objective. Specific, measurable, time-bounded, and she agreed it was achievable.
And did she achieve it?
No. In fact, wastage actually went up slightly.
Sounds like an example of the Gary effect.
The Gary effect?
Yeah, Gary as in Gary the IT manager. I sat down with him about the same time you were talking to Claire.
I'm not sure what this has got to do with me.
What do you mean?
Well, my job's to keep the system secure and online, and I'm doing that.
Yeah, but we all need to play our part in meeting company goals. Can you see any ways to help us be more environmentally friendly?
Well, not really. I mean, we recycle our cartridges already.
What about energy saving, for example? Do the computers need to be on the whole time?
Well, yes, they do. And we need them on during the day, obviously, and we also need them on at night for backups, updates, and virus scans.
Well, I'm just thinking, at night now I turn the standby thing off on my TV. Is there something like that we could do with the computers?
Yeah, but computers aren't televisions.
And so it went on. I suggested things and Gary pointed out why they wouldn't work. In the end, we did come up with an objective. So, your objective is to reduce the amount of paper wasted by people printing out emails, and you're going to do that by putting a footer on all our emails asking people not to print them out unless strictly necessary.
Yep.
And how much paper are you going to save that way?
Don't know. Depends on if anybody takes notice of the footers.
But we need a target, Gary, otherwise how will we know the objective's been achieved?
Well, how about 10%?
10% sounds a bit, well, unambitious.
20% then.
Do you believe you can achieve that?
Don't see why not.
Right. 20% then. And over how long?
6 months.
OK, so your objective is to save 20% on paper costs over the next 6 months by reducing the amount of emails printed unnecessarily.
Yep.
And did he do it?
He did put the footer on eventually, but when I asked him if he was on track to achieve the 20% reduction in paper usage, he looked at me as if I was mad. Anyway, it's hardly headline stuff, is it? Rainforest saved by outbound travellers' new email policy.
So, what is the Gary effect?
Well, the Gary effect is what happens when you set objectives with someone who's not properly engaged in the process. You can make objectives as specific and measurable and time-bounded and all the rest of it, but nothing will happen unless the person is actively engaged in the process.
But my people all agreed to the objectives we set.
Agreement's not the same as engagement. Look, there are two reasons why people don't achieve their objectives. Because they can't, or they just don't want to. In most cases, it's because people just aren't committed to making the objective work.
So what do you do about it?
Well, you've got to get them engaged. You've got to get them mentally engaged in setting the objective. Make sure they understand the reasons for the objective and the thinking behind it. But more important than that, you've got to get them emotionally engaged. Make sure they actually care about the objectives, that they believe in it.
So the Gary effect is when they don't care or believe in them.
Yeah. So when I realised Gary was going nowhere with his objective, I had another go. Gary, before we review progress on your objectives, tell me what you think about the corporate goal itself, of being an environmental leader. What do you think about that?
I think it's a good idea.
I think it's a good idea. That doesn't sound like passionate commitment to me.
To be honest, it's a bit of a nuisance from where I sit. There's not much IT can do, really, is there? And having to pay lip service to environmental goals on top of everything else is a bit of a pain.
And then I realised that he didn't buy into what we were trying to do. I got him to agree to an objective by using logic, but because he didn't believe in the overall goal, he wasn't going to be committed to achieving it.
So what did you do?
Well, for a start, I had to understand why he didn't believe in it. What do you think about the environment generally? I mean, pollution and global warming and so on.
Oh, it's a huge problem. But changing a few light bulbs won't make any difference.
And why do you think the company's doing this? Setting the environment at the top of our priorities?
To make them look good, I suppose, to the outside world.
And that was the problem. It wasn't that he didn't believe in the importance of the environment, but that he thought we didn't. He thought we were doing it for purely presentational reasons, and so he wasn't emotionally engaged in helping us. I could understand you being cynical if that was the case, Gary, but I really don't think it is. In fact, I know it's not. There are more than enough punters out there who will buy the cheapest holidays, regardless of the effect on the environment. We don't need to look good on this one, Gary.
So why do you think they're doing it?
Not them, us. And I know why we're doing it. We've recognised that we're all threatened by pollution, waste and CO2 emissions. And companies like ours can make a real difference, but we need commitment. We can't just be faffing about at the edges. That's why we're doing it.
You really think they mean it?
I know we mean it. And at that point, the whole tenor of the discussion changed. Up until now, he'd seen this simply as a box-ticking exercise. But now he was engaged, mentally and emotionally. And I saw a whole new Gary.
There's a whole lot we could do if the company is serious about it.
What sort of things do you mean?
There's a whole set of environmental standards already marked out by the IEEE. Standards for electronic equipment covering things like energy conservation, packaging, recycling, manufacturing, and so on.
And would these standards make a difference to us?
Oh, yeah. Each of our existing PCs generates about the same CO2 as a mid-sized car travelling about 1,000 miles. And we've got hundreds of them. Then there's all the emissions involved in manufacture, plus our cooling costs. Then there's the end-of-life issues, or recycling and disposal.
And how much could we reduce our impact by?
Well, I've seen figures as high as 70%.
But that's huge, Gary.
But we're going to have to change a lot of the ways we do things.
And how would we find out what's involved?
I'll have to do a lot of work on it to find out what options we have for reducing carbon footprint and other impacts. But suppose I do all this and nobody takes any notice.
I'll take notice, Gary. I mean, if you can come up with a serious plan for big reductions in the IT function's impact on the environment, I'll take that to you and myself, and I'll make sure that the company takes it seriously. And that's crucial, Sangeeta. Commitment runs both ways. We want people to be committed to their objectives, but we need to be committed to them too. We need to show them that we care about what they're trying to do and that we're right behind them.
So what was the objective in the end?
Give me your objective then.
OK, so it's to research the ways that we can reduce the environmental impact of our IT systems.
And recommend concrete steps that we can take.
Well, yeah.
And how long will this take?
3 months.
discussion of time frame is a chance to show how committed you are as a manager to a particular objective. You shouldn't put unreasonable pressure on someone, but if you care about an objective, you want to see it get done as soon as reasonably possible. Gary, we've really got to get on with this. The company wants to make serious changes across its business, like now. Why would you need 3 months?
I could do it a lot quicker. It depends on what else you want me to do.
What's the fastest you could do it?
If I dropped everything, I could do it in a couple of weeks. But I can't drop everything.
Well, if we were to make this your top developmental priority, obviously understanding you've got to keep the day-to-day things running, how long would you need?
6 weeks.
Why not 4? How do you arrive at 6?
I could do it in 2 if I went full time. But half my time is taken up with day-to-day, which means I could do it in 4 if nothing else crops up. No crises or major failures. But there always are crises and major failures, so I need time to work on those. I might be able to do it quicker than 6, but I can't promise anything.
But you could promise 6?
Yeah.
Well, let's agree on that then. That you'll come up with some concrete recommendations backed up by research as to how the company can make dramatic improvements of the environmental impact of IT, and that you'll do all that within 6 weeks of today. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I do.
Could you drop me an email confirming what we've agreed?
Yeah, I'll get one off to you straight away.
Excellent. Thank you, Gary. I think you can do something that'll make a real difference. And as you know, that's what he did. He came up with some really dramatic proposals for improving the environmental impact of IT, and the company's implementing many of them right now.
That's what I've got to do with my people. I've got to get them really engaged with the objectives we're trying to meet.
And not just mentally, emotionally.
Let's just talk about priorities for a moment. How do you see your environmental objectives compared to the other things that you have to do?
Well, obviously they're quite important, but not as important as looking after our customers.
Oh, I agree our customers have to come first. But Claire, the world's changing. And our customers won't stand for a poor environmental performance for much longer. I mean, just look at the successes of the ecotourism companies. I mean, if we don't get to be amongst the best in terms of environmental impact, then we won't stay in business. It's as simple as that. And in future, the board will be looking at the environmental impact of every department, including yours.
Yeah, I know, but I don't think you understand the pressure that we're under down there. I mean, the phone rings basically all day. I mean, there's queues sometimes of people holding. We need to be able to answer questions quickly, and that sometimes means getting brochures out to customers. I mean, we haven't got time to worry about whether we throw away brochures at the end of the season.
So you're saying it can't be done? Leaving aside the environmental thing for a moment, what do you think the important issues are in your department?
Well, workload, definitely. We're just under too much pressure. We haven't got time to do any more than what we're doing now.
Well, what takes up the most time?
Well, it's the paperwork for the calls, mainly. I mean, we make notes on the calls, and then usually we have to print out a letter and a label, and then put a brochure in an envelope to send out to them.
And this is because people are asking for brochures. Well, why aren't they looking at the website, I wonder? I mean, in many ways, the website is much better than a brochure.
Well, maybe they don't know about it. Or maybe they're not computer types.
Well, are you encouraging them to use the website?
Well, surely if they're calling us, it's because they want a brochure or they want to talk to someone.
Yes, but in many cases, they may not know about it. I mean, if you were to get some of them onto the website instead of sending them brochures, I mean, would that help?
I mean, it would. As I say, it's the paperwork that takes all the time. Are you suggesting that we try and persuade people to look at the website rather than us send them out a brochure?
I don't know. I'm asking you. What do you think?
I mean, that could really work. I mean, if we could get people to switch, I mean, that'd save us a lot of time.
And it would save us a lot of brochures too, and postage, and all of that would help the environment.
Yeah, I suppose you're right.
Well, can we work that into an objective for you then?
Yeah. Let's make the objective that we try and get people to switch to the website.
And how will you do that?
Well, while we're on the phone to them, we can ask them if they know about the website and suggest they go and look at it. We can send them an online link. And if they're online at the time, well, we can direct them to where the site is.
OK. How do we set a target? Something to measure the success by.
Well, I suppose we could look at how many people go onto the site.
Could we make it how many brochures we save? That would make more sense from a company standpoint.
Yeah, let's make it that. Let's say that we try and halve the amount of brochures that we normally send out.
So a 50% saving of brochures, what timescale?
Well, I mean, we should be able to do it in about 6 months, I would have thought.
Fantastic.
Not bad. We've moved about halfway up the rankings. In fact, we've got a special mention as being most improved operator. And you reckon this is all due to the way we set our objectives this year?
Well, that's right. We made sure that we set objectives that mattered to the company, but we also made sure that they mattered to our people. That way we got them really engaged, instead of just going along with whatever we said.
Well, it worked. Well done, everyone.